Coming up on this episode of the Brain Drain Show.
The first big push was definitely a death one. I've got my tattooed both years. He says big push 07, but then I got a tattooed down my leg. The video that they had fit on the lens, which obviously Avi made, which is an unreal video. So he does the chaos flip, it rolls along the top of the bench, he runs alongside it, and it kick flips off itself. But that's how he skated all the time, just used to like, that's not possible. Me and Kates used to get on pretty well. But I feel like maybe at the beginning, Dan might not have liked me maybe because I was a bit of a nightmare. Most of the death trips to me were a blur because I was always pissed out my head. I ended up leaving Amsterdam with like just under 10 grand. I remember saying to Ollie, by this time tomorrow I'm going to be sponsored by Supra. But he was known as Virchav. Went to the Berwick's, filmed stuff there. Went to Double Rock, filmed a part there. Went to Transworld, filmed a clip in the Transworld park. Just trying to be as proactive as possible and just salvage my career basically. With not drinking, loads of other things became way better in my life. If you've got to a point where you have recognised you need to stop drinking or cut down, that's the hardest part. I was still playing in the band. I was kind of moving towards more like electronic music and production and DJing. The second tune that we made, we sent it to a couple of people and it just blew up. It went like really big within our sort of world of what we were making. Maybe I could make a little edit for this episode, just a one-off theme tune, but I'm actually not jaded from skateboarding anymore. This podcast has really helped.
Good evening and welcome to another great episode of the Brain Drain Show with me, Forde Brookfield. Joined to my left is my trusty co-host, Toby Batchelor. Toby, tell him your name.
You just said it, it's Toby.
Toby Richmond Batchelor.
It's not Richmond, for f***'s sake.
We have a very special guest, personally, some of my favourite deaf parts. Joined to the left is the one and only
Rob Smith.
Rob Smith in the studio.
Safe.
Thanks
Nice
for
one
coming,
for having me
dude.
Thank you for
Good
making
to
the
see ya.
travel.
When was the last time we hung out? Was it like, it must have been Big
know.
Push or like...
I mean, maybe a House of Ands thing.
I've never been to House of
have you
Ands.
not?
Never went.
Not
so,
then. I don't know. Maybe a big push.
Yeah, that's... I mean, we're talking...
07 and 09 I was on it.
Was it? Jesus, it's such a long
No,
time
I
ago.
must have seen you since 2009 though.
Probably. I don't know. I'm pretty
You-
bad with keeping
You get
in touch with
confused
people.
though with social media, innit? If you've actually seen somebody
Yeah.
or you're
Yeah.
just watching them.
I wanted to jump straight in because it's a really rad memory I've got of you. When we were editing Escape from Boredom just to give a bit of context, so I was living
Go into the whole story.
in a granny annex at the end of Cundall's garden.
Mm-hmm.
So Cundall's parents had this amazing, lovely house, and then I was down the end in this like sketchy kind of like just a flat basically. It was riddled with spiders, massive spiders all year round. It was you'd wake up with spiders webs on your face and stuff. Anyway, so we were editing.
Are you sure that was cobwebs? Are you sure it weren't
Well, what else could it be?
it could be a special night out with a loved one.
We would so Zorlak, you know, the Zorlak's like day schedule is kind of off with everyone else, and he would turn up in the evenings and we'd edit the video. And then one time he turned up with your sponsor tape, and he was like, "Check this out," and it's you walking around your house with that spinny
Disco ball.
disco ball on your head.
I actually tried to dig the disco ball out to bring it here because I knew you was going to ask about it. And I found it a couple of months ago.
Yeah,
Put it in a box somewhere. I don't know where it is.
but it was the best because Zorlak was so stoked on the sponsor tape. He was like, "Look at this fucking lunatic!" Like just, and then there was a bit of skating in there, but it was kind of like you could just tell straight away. Zorlak was on board from day one. He was like, "Yep, Rob Smith. Look, check this sponsor tape out." And it went on the DVD as an extra, I think, didn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to dig it out, but it must be somewhere. Have you got it on?
I've got it at home. Yeah, DVD.
Yeah, we need to put
What
it
is
on.
it? Escape from Boredom bonus? Or
It was
something?
it was on the bonus, yeah, and that was kind of your. Was that your first
I think
sponsor or?
No, it wasn't my first sponsor, but I think I was, by the time the video came out, I was getting flow.
Yeah.
I was getting flowed boards. And then, yeah, I think it was kind of like, if the timing would have been right, I probably would have filmed tricks to have been on the, vid, but it was just like, well, let's just put that tape on the extras.
Yeah. I think it was quite early on that we got that tape. But I remember it was funny. Like Zorlak he was so stoked on it. He was just like, yeah, this is what we want to see.
How did you send the tape? Was it an actual?
It was a VHS tape.
Actual VHS tape.
Yeah.
And you'd edited it like what, tape to tape? Or?
Yes. So I had a camcorder and a few of my friends had a camcorder. And yeah, we'd just film each other. And then I remember, making it, just sticking it together, tape to tape,
Yeah.
in my bedroom, editing it. And
How old was you at the time? 13, 14 or something?
Might have been a bit later than that. I think I
want to say 15 or 16, maybe.
Yeah,
or
probably
maybe
about
17
that.
Or something. But
yeah,
just,
no, I think
so
maybe
funny.
about 15. But the thing with the disco ball was basically at the end of the tape. So I'd filmed all this skating like from tape to tape, recording it onto VHS, and the last clip that I filmed, it just carried on recording, and then it went to just some B-roll footage, and it was me walking around the house with, it was a cap that a disco ball attaches to.
Yeah.
The disco ball was on. I can't remember what was going on, but I had the cap on, and then next door neighbour's alarm started going off. So then I come
you're
downstairs.
outside the house at one point, aren't you?
Yeah, so I think I come down the stairs to see what's going on, and then my mum had been out, and she was just coming in, and she got out of a taxi, and she had a couple of drinks, and she was kind of just like, "What's going on?" And it was just all this sort
and you're
of
just
like
walking around with this thing on filming. Yeah, it's so good. It's so like random.
But
really
I just
random.
thought I'd just leave it on the tape. But it's probably good that I did, because if I didn't, I don't think Nick would have been as interested.
I mean, don't take this the wrong way, but I don't remember any of the skating. I just remember that.
Yeah, you just said, there was a bit of skating.
A bit of skating on there, yeah. But it was just so funny. It was amazing. But I think that was like, I'm trying to, the timing sort of goes, I mean, it's a long time ago now, but I was sure the first big push was 2006.
2006 big push.
Well, I was on it in 2007.
So you were on, because I went on one with you. I did 2 of them. It must have been the second one that you came on, because I remember you were on Duff's as well at that point. So it would have been...
The first big push was definitely a death one. I'm sure the second one that I went on, Ramos was the special guest.
That's
so
the one
what
I
was
was
that?
on, yeah.
Was that a death one again?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were the 2 that I was on.
Yeah. I had it in my head that I did one, missed one, did another one, but I can't remember. But the big push was fun.
Yeah, it's a shame stuff like that isn't around
at the
now.
time, it was hell. Like, it was hellish, but like looking back, I mean, it was rad, especially like when we had Ben on that one. And
I feel like nothing like that really happens anymore. There's a lot of things like that in skating. I feel like it doesn't really happen.
But there's not that there was a lot of money around at that point, but there was more kind of like, you know, like Eastpak were always helping out with stuff with deaf as well, and you know, always. I mean, there was more boards being sold as well, but I mean now, I mean, I don't know who would even do it, you know.
No.
But that, I mean, I'm just going off on one now, but that first big push, that first session we did at St Albans, and it was a lock in there, and Horsey had just come back from doing some modelling shoot with
Super or something, maybe.
No, it's before that, I think, and he had like this makeup on his neck and stuff, and it was like, that was the first one Moggins, that's the first trip Moggins came in. It was like his introduction, and that session at St Albans was insane, and then we went straight on to Milton Keynes until about 6 a.m. or something. Like,
how were they structured, the big pushes? Was it like a week-long event, week-long event sponsored by, hosted by Sidewalk?
Yeah,
but paid for
it was Document, wasn't it? Was the first one Document?
First one was Document.
Yeah. So Document, and then it went over to Sidewalk.
Document was wicked, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that's my
really
favourite.
Document.
But
really
they were
good.
crazy. I mean, everyone was really productive. I mean, obviously you had Kate's, you know, with the whip to make sure everyone did stuff, but you kind of needed it back then. So
it's all a bit of a blur, to be honest. I just remember bits and bobs of it, but I remember the years because I got my balls tattooed both years.
Yeah,
with 07 and 09. So that's all I know.
What's the ball tattoo?
He says Big Push 07.
That's it. So
on the balls.
That's the confirmation of the
balls,
year. We got that. It's on
How did that feel, getting that done?
It was the worst pain I've ever felt.
Who did it?
Monk.
So where was that? Because I remember
it was in a hotel room, like a Travelodge somewhere.
I think it was in Manchester.
I don't think it was Manchester.
Yeah, because
if it was Manchester, I probably would have got a tattooist that I know to do it. But I feel like it was probably somewhere south because Monk did it.
He's from
maybe
Essex.
it was in Harlow or something.
I don't know. I just remember that. I remember like. Because there was a few rooms, and it's like Rob's getting his balls tattooed. Is that when you got the tattooed on your leg as well?
No, that was.
I just had it in my head that was when.
No, it was another time. That was on another trip, a Shiner thing maybe, because it was with Stu Graham and Benson, and I can't remember what trip that was on. Oh no, maybe it was.
I had it in my head it was, but I mean I can't remember anything
because. Monk did Big Push 07, And he was an actual tattooist, so it was kind of like, I didn't think it was going to be that bad, but it was really bad.
How do you tattoo the balls? Do you put your hand under the
had
skin
to,
and
like,
pull it?
Pull it over.
Oh, so it's on the underside.
Yeah, so it's on the underside.
We're gonna have a see of this. we can censor it out.
You just want to see my balls.
Pretty much, yeah.
Forde always wants to see everyone.
So, but, I mean, it was really painful.
Yeah.
But Monk was a tattooist. But then the year when I did it in 2009, Ramers did it, and he's not a tattooist, and that was even worse. Yeah. And he also gave me. This is why I'm thinking that maybe it was on that trip, because he also then gave me another tattoo, and I don't know if I don't feel like it was that trip, but then I got a tattoo down my leg, which isn't there anymore. Got it covered up
with an even bigger
horse. It was the only thing that I could find that was the right kind of shape.
I think the connection there was because Horsey was on it, and then Horsey was really getting into tattoos at the time, if I remember correctly, and then Monk was there. Let's tattoo Rob.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I think he got called up. I'm sure Monk got called up and was like, "We need you to come and give people tattoos." And then he turned up. We got a hotel room.
Yeah.
And people got tattooed.
I can see it in my head. I remember walking into the room and you were there screaming your head off.
You must have filmed it, I think. Someone filmed it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because there's a clip in the Big Push. It's like kind of the aftermath. I'm stood there like kind of in pain.
It's so hazy, isn't it? It's not even that long ago, really, but it's funny as they were good times. I mean, obviously having Ben on that trip was amazing. I've got so many stories about that. But Boots absolutely went in hard, didn't he? Like that big spin front board. But yeah, yours. I remember yours being pretty much just outline, isn't it? Yeah, or was.
I can't. I think Ramers and Benson did it between them.
Let's go back to the beginning. Then when did you start skating?
I was very young when I got my first skateboard, but it was kind of this like plastic, like thick plastic. All like the trucks were all in one, the wheels were all in. It was a weird like. It wasn't like a proper skateboard. Yeah. But I got that when I was probably maybe 3 or 4 years old, but obviously it wasn't something that you could properly skate on. It was just like a toy kind of thing. And then, so that was when I was about 4. And then when I was maybe about 7 or 8, I got this kind of skinny wooden board that was with these tiny trucks, kind of like a penny board is now, but it was all wooden. Probably got that when I was about 8. And then I got a proper skateboard then when I was 10, and then from that point it was like non-stop. Yeah. But before that it was kind of just like, I've got a board, kind of roll about now and again. It wasn't really a thing.
What was it about when you got that third board that you were like, that was your time in skating started? What was there something like the graphic or the time or the videos or? You
know what? Not even. I think like at that time when I got that board, I'd still not seen skate videos. I'd not really seen skateboarders, like, you know, the odd person on the street maybe, but there was no graphic that I can remember that was on the board. It was like
I guess you were just at that age where it was like impressionable when you were like, this is it, this is my thing.
And then there'd been something that had obviously that I was attracted to because I'd had these other boards in the past, but just from that point I think maybe the other boards I'd not really like figured it out, and then when I got that board and it was a proper shape and it just worked for me, I think. And then from that point, I was just kind of addicted to it. And it was just, it was all go.
Who was like your crew when you were getting into skating? Did you have like your buddies?
So I'd probably say for like the first year, it was kind of just me taking my board along with like me and my mum and my brother used to like, we'd go to Southport at the weekend or Blackpool or like just somewhere on little trips, and I'd always bring my board. So the first year was sort of me just riding around. And then I kind of started to build a few little obstacles in my driveway. And I had this kind of just this piece of angle line that was just like on the floor. Yeah. That I'd kind of just try and ride on grind. And then there was a kid who used to like walk past. He was probably, at this time I was maybe like 10, 11. And he was probably like 15 or something. And he'd pass by and every now and again he'd stop and he'd kind of like jump on my board. And you could tell he'd skated before. He was, looking back now, he was super sketchy, but then at the time he was kind of like, he'd show me little bits and bobs. So he was kind of the first person who I'd seen like do anything on a board, really.
Did he show you tricks and stuff?
I mean, not really. He kind of roughly showed me what you would do to ollie, but he couldn't really do it that well. And I remember he used to like the piece of angle line that I had on the floor, he'd go straight on and kind of like ollie lengthways onto it. So that's how I learnt 50-50s, which then ended up giving me loads of trouble later down the line because I then struggled to do front 50s or back 50s. Ollieing on, I had to go kind of straight on.
Yeah.
So he was the first person I'd ever seen do anything on a board. And then after, I think it was probably a year of just messing around, somebody told me about there being a skate park in Bolton, which was Bolton Bones.
Yeah.
And then I went there with a friend from school who rollerbladed. So my mum took us both for the first time, and then we went to Bolton. He went off and did his thing rollerblading, and I went off and skated. And I think then pretty quickly, it's funny because we was talking about him just before the show, Rick Fields, he was there. He's a little bit younger than me, not much, maybe like a year younger. He was there. There's this other kid called Howard. They were both from like Wigan area. So pretty much they were kind of like the first crew that were like my age.
What were your first videos that you saw or you remember seeing?
I feel like the first couple of videos that really spring to mind is This Way Up, which was a note video.
Yeah.
So I had like Joe Gavin on it, Tony De Silva.
Joe Gavin's
Eddie
been
Belvedere.
non-stop.
Yeah.
For his whole life.
I really want to get him on here.
This Way Up was kind of, I think that was the first video that I actually owned that I bought. But there'd always be videos on in the shop. So Note used to be in Bones, Bolton, and Stockport actually. So there was a Bones in Bolton and in Stockport, and they both had a Note shop. So I used to go in there and watch whatever videos were on. But This Way Up was the first one that I really remember. And then I remember getting, I bought it off Ben Grove actually because he was selling a load of VHS tapes, and I bought this Red Dragons video, but it was the promo, like what gets sent to a shop to see if they want to buy it to stock it.
Yeah.
So it's just a blank tape. And I can't remember what year that was, but they were the first videos that I kind of remember watching.
So when you sent that sponsor tape to Def, was that kind of your first go at trying to get a sponsor?
And where did sending it to Def the idea come from? Like, how did you get to know Def skateboards?
It wasn't really the first kind of attempt at getting sponsored. So what kind of happened is, so at Bones, obviously Andy Scott was the manager. Eddie Belvedere used to work there. Avi would be down there all the time.
Avi, yes.
There's like,
love when Avi comes.
I mean, the local, like I could list the locals that were down there, like Steve Rowe, Pete Dossett. Like there's so many like really rad locals that had come down and that were really good. So I was kind of skating with all them lot from a young age. Or they'd turn up, they'd be skating the mini ramp. So then us as kids would go and skate the mini ramp, and we'd kind of follow him around the park and stuff like that.
What year was that?
I'm like, really bad with years, you know. But I first started. I started skating in '99, so it's probably like 2001, 2000.
That's like peak Chris Avi.
Yeah. It was unreal. Like
I love him,
that,
man. Like,
yeah,
I've been hanging out with him.
I mean, you don't mention it much, do you?
I mention it as much as I can, but he's just sick, isn't he? Like no
unreal.
one understands
like
how unreal he is.
The stuff that he does, and it's just unexplainable. Some of the stuff. It's just like what? How are you doing that? No one's done some of the stuff that he does, and it's just like there's some other kind of power there that's not just skateboarding. But yeah, the reason I was kind of mentioning that was because this would have probably been quite a few years afterwards, but it was at the point where I was starting to like be able to do tricks and was like filming stuff with friends and getting to a point where I was getting good at stuff. Karma had started, so Karma first sponsored Eddie and Avi. So every time they went on a Karma trip, they'd sort of drag me along with them, be like, bring Rob on the trip. So I was always in the van. So I wasn't even getting flowed boards, but I'd maybe have Eddie's old board or Avi's old board, and I was always in the Karma van with the rest of the guys. And
with Adam and Jane, or just Adam?
Yeah, with Adam and Jane. And there was Amir, Sean Smith, Joe Nobes, Tom Watts a little bit later.
Karma had a solid team for a while.
It was really good.
Because you were in their Day in the City as well, right? Was you in that? They did a Day in the City that Avi filmed and edited. That was Amir, Eddie, I just came across it on video.
I don't know.
I remember that one.
I don't know if I was on it. I don't think so.
Yeah,
It was never. It was never really an official thing with Karma. I felt like it was probably gonna be, but then it started to all sort of fall apart at that point. But yeah, the team was mental at that point. It was really good.
Snadden was on there as well at that point, wasn't he?
Snadden, was he?
I'm sure he was.
I don't think Snadden. I don't think Dave was on Karma. Definitely not at that point. Anyway,
I just remember him being at the bus station, Milton Keynes, riding a Karma board.
Oh, maybe.
I'm talking early 2000s.
I'm not sure. Maybe he got floored some boards at some point.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know.
But
so you were in the van with Karma.
So it's kind of like
bits.
in the van with those guys quite a lot, and yeah, that was what I was going to say. The funny thing was as well was like obviously Andy was the manager down at Bones, and Eddie was just at that point was just unreal. He was just like the local kid that was just insane, and Eddie's like 4 years older than me, but I think Eddie via Andy got a box of flipboards, and then Eddie stopped the flipboards to ride for Karma, which looking back now is pretty funny, isn't it?
Yeah. And Eddie's still good as well.
Yeah. He's better now than he's ever been, isn't he? Like...
So yeah, at that point it was like Karma was really. It was really good. But then obviously a couple of years later that sort of started to fall apart, and
it was the or depending on where you were in the country.
At what point, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't mean that with respect. Doesn't sound like it, but it was Anyway.
And the video that they had on the lens, which obviously Avi made, was an unreal video, and all of Avi's like old footage that he'd been sat on for years was all on that video, and some of the stuff on that video is insane. Avi's part.
I messaged him a couple of months ago and I said, "How come you had the opening part and the closing part? Because he's got 2 parts in it." And he says like, "Well, I just filmed and skated every day, non-stop. If it was on my own, if someone were filming, his Mrs. Gemma filmed a lot of it.
Yeah, she did. Yeah,
and like that, that shit on the lens video, his stuff in that is so fucking good.
I've got to put it out there. I've never watched it all the way through.
There's the one trick which is still like, you'll know this one, but it's in shit on the lens, and it's just unexplainable. There's a bench like this, and he does the
chaos flip
onto the. So he does the chaos flip. It rolls along the top of the bench. And then he runs alongside it, and it kick flips off itself.
And he lands on it.
And
he bends it, and he's like,
Gemma filmed that as well. Yeah. But when you watch that, you're like, how does that happen? It doesn't happen. But that's how he skated all the time. Just like that's not possible.
There's a real old Karma clip of him I found on a promo for that video, and he does one of the no comply tray flips and drops in it to nose manny downhill and just sits on it. Yeah. And he still skates really good to this day. And last time I was with him, he went, "Not bad for nearly 50. He's so sick, man. And now you're in Manchester. I'm sure like he'd love to see you and go for a skate.
We still chat, like we still keep in touch, because we went on like quite a lot of like outings and stuff together as years went on, like going skating. We also actually did a lot of plastering together, because when I left school, I was a plasterer. And there was another guy called Macca who we used to skate with, and he was a plasterer, and Avi used to labour for Macca, and then later on Avi started plastering himself. So we worked together as well, like on building sites and stuff for a while, which was
what was he like with plastering? Has he got that?
Well, at that point, he wasn't really plastering, he was just labouring.
Yeah.
So at the time I worked with him, he was kind of just...
Was he like making bricks do tricks into the walls? And...
There was a few times actually where we'd skate like a little block of wood, or like he'd do a tray flip with a piece of wood on, on something, so you've got a bit of pop.
He's got drawers and cupboards of videos and DVDs of footage that he's never even used. He was like, "Come to my greenhouse." And I went to his greenhouse, and he got in like a Wurzel Gummidge suit, and he was like, I'm like, this is a 50-year-old man, and he's like running around in his greenhouse in like this brown robe with a grey beard, and he's so rad to be around. And the day that I met him, we've mentioned it before, the day I met him, the guy that runs Fancy Lad Skateboards came over from the States.
Right.
So like Avi and him met on the same day as I met them both as well.
Right, wicked.
And all the Fancy Lad guys are always like, "Chris Alverton, man, he's the guy that inspired all of us." And then Big Zay met him on that day.
It's like the god.
And it was really underappreciated skateboarder.
Do you remember Avi? The video Avi?
Yeah, I've got it. I had 200 copies of it.
Did you?
Because I went to Avi's just before the video came out to film, because he obviously had a part, and I was like, we bought out a board, a limited run of 50 Avi boards. We made like this little, I'll show you after, this little clay figure of Avi with a long extendable arm pointing at his name, and it was all made out of clay. And I said, for the first 50 people that buy the board, they get a copy of the Avi DVD.
Oh, sick.
And he was like, well, I've got 200 of them in the attic. And he went down and he just got boxes of them. Because back in,
that's the graphic there.
Because back in those days, try and zoom in. Because back in those days, you would have made like,
I've seen it, actually.
You would have made 2,000 copies of a video, you know what I mean? Or more. And then you sat on like 500 of them.
Yeah.
But so I ended up getting 200 so copies of it.
I think that the featured, like the main film's like an hour, but then the extras are like 3 hours or something.
Yeah, and you go into the menu, and then into the menu, and then into the menu.
Yeah.
And
Easter eggs.
And they're all moving as well. Like there's one where it's like a song from, I forgot what it's called, like Monty Python, and it's Avi with a shopping bag, and he's just like, his little character's just walking over loads of fields.
Yeah.
It's like,
you could do
Lots
stuff
of
like that with
animations and
DVDs
stuff.
back in the day,
I know.
like Easter eggs and that.
If you think about the time as well that all that stuff come out, it was just mental. That's like, as a kid, I was just fascinated by like that DVD menu, like trying to find hidden stuff, and it's like that's kind of lost. There's nothing really like that. It's just there, obviously, to find and click on.
Press play and that's it. We did some on Escape from Boredom. There's a couple of Easter eggs in there, but I mean, we made it so hard. It was like you had to go down, right, up, press this button. It was mental, but you could get there.
Yeah.
But the time it takes to do that.
Yeah, it took forever.
Like, and Avi's extras are 3 hours long between 17 different hidden chapters.
Yeah.
He must have done it all on an acid trip or something. Yeah. Like, he definitely edited that Avi video on a mixture of things, but I don't know.
So you were kind of getting bro flow karma, and you were like, Death Skateboards is the one.
I can't remember at what point I would have discovered Death, but obviously karma kind of fell apart. Everyone left and did their own things. Like the Harmony started, so like Eddie went and skated for the Harmony.
Harmony.
I can't remember where Avi went from then. I know I ended up skating for White Trash. I don't know if that was straight after karma or if there was a bit of a gap, but anyway, that kind of like, that sort of fell apart. And at that point, so like me and Ollie Timon were sort of like best mates, and we'd go out, go on trips and stuff everywhere. And Ollie introduced me to Nick Powley. So, and Powley moved to Manchester, and he was living above Cast, which is a skate shop.
Yeah.
I know it's not been there for years, but it was an old skate shop, and then Powley lived above it. And Powley had a distribution at that time. OG, I think it was OG, because he had a few, didn't he? But he had one where he was distributing Cream and
that was OG.
A bunch of other stuff. But so we ended up like meeting Powley, and there used to be a mini ramp in the shop as well, so we'd skate the mini ramp and stuff like that. Timon, I think at that point was who was Timon skating for? He must have been skating for Consolidated at that time.
He was on,
so I think like
well.
Around that time was when I was or maybe a little bit before that was when I kind of discovered Death and was kind of aware of it. And basically Powley had a wheel company called Potato Wheels. So that was my first ever sponsor. And that ended up happening because me and Ollie really wanted to ride for independent. So Powley said, I'll get you both on if you ride for Potato Wheels. So me and Ollie rode for Potato Wheels. Nick rang Chris Allen. Is it Chris Allen?
Chris Allen at Shiner, yeah.
Rang Chris Allen at Shiner. Got us on Indy. And this was all at around the same time. It was around that point was when I'd sent the sponsor me tape off to Death. So within a couple of weeks of having no sponsors, I ended up then riding for Potato Wheels, independent, and Death within a few weeks.
Can we just talk about Potato Wheels real quick? So they came in like a Hessian potato sack, and like there's that video of Powley and Wingy giving away potatoes to kids at Bay 66 because they think it's something special. Fucking brilliant. These kids are like, whoa, he's getting potatoes. I don't know whether that's on the internet anymore. That's the kind of. They were good wheels.
Potato wheels.
Yeah. So yeah, you went pretty much from having nothing to having wheels, trucks, and boards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was kind of. I think I'd sent the sponsor me tape off, and it must have been an email that I got back from Nick, and it was something along the lines of. it wasn't like we're going to hook you up, but it was, we're going to send you this board because we really liked the tape.
That's right.
But there's no room on the team at the minute, or something along those lines of like, it's not a no, but it's not a yes sort of thing. But here's a board because we really enjoyed the tape.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I was like, right, I've got to put that board to use now. I've got to do something with this board to make them send me more boards. So pretty much from that point, I was just like, right, I think I must have rang Percy that day, gone, let's go shoot a photo.
Yeah.
Gone and filmed a bunch of stuff. And then I think probably the month after in document, I would have had photos in with a deaf board. Then I was going to skate like comps and placing pretty high in the comps.
Getting out there.
Getting out there and trying to make use of that board.
This is the
thing that skateboarding's missing.
It seems to be missing from all the kids now. They think you just get sponsored and that's it.
Yeah.
You can't.
Well, I feel like now though,
pull your finger
because of social media,
Yeah.
You can be a pro skateboarder from just having a phone and going down to your local park and filming a mad trick, and like that kind of created laziness in a way where it's like, or not laziness, because some of the stuff that's on Insta is mental, but back then you had to like get on a train,
you had to be
go
out
to the
there.
other side of the country to some shit skate park in the middle of nowhere,
and
just
sleep rough and just get on with it,
and
not be a fucking nightmare.
So you
all tend to be these days.
So you effectively, through putting that board to use and being in magazines with it, asserted yourself and put yourself on Def.
Yeah.
Of just being like, it's here, I'm here.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. So what was the step after that? Did Nick email you and say,
you know what, actually, there's one little thing that I forgot about. Pig City restarted as well during that point with Karma going down. And there was a local called Josh Parr who was like quite a few years younger than me. He was amazing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, Josh.
Literally within a year, he was like, could do everything that we'd learned in the last like 5 years.
Yeah.
So at that point, Pasty was coming down to the park quite a bit. Dossett was there all the time. Scotty. So they were all riding for Pig City. So I actually got floored a couple of boards from Pig City. And the first photo I had in document was with a Pig City t-shirt and a board.
Yeah.
But it was never really like a proper thing. It was just like Josh and Dossett and Scotty are getting boards. So here's a board with their package sort of thing.
During that time when Andy Scott was managing the park and you were there, have you got any good experiences of Andy Scott just blowing minds? Because I only ever saw it a couple of times maybe at Wakefield in the sort of mid to late 90s. Him just in his element, but I bet if he's there at his local, like,
I mean, it'd be one of them where I used to go there every weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and then sometimes I'd go in the week. So I'd be there like 3 times a week, and probably every 10th time that I was there, Andy'd roll around for an hour, and every time he rolled around, everyone just stopped skating and just watched him because it was unreal. But the one time I remember was there was a Black Label tour that came through. So you had like Chet Childress was there.
Adam Alfaro was
there. Melcher was there. And then Pete Rigby was there because Pete, I think, got flowed Black Label at the time. So he was there. There's a couple of people like UK guys or flows that were there. But I remember there was a few of us, like I had my video camera and I was just sort of sat on the side with my friend Howard and was just filming the demo. And we just kept going like, oh, I wish Scotty had just come out, and like, because obviously it was his park and some of the stuff that the guys were trying, it was just like seeing Andy do this, like easy. And then he came out and he just absolutely destroyed it in like 20 minutes and then just disappeared. Well, just watched him come out and like effortlessly just do stuff that I'm sure all the team was probably just like, fuck's sake, we've just come over from America to do this demo, and Scotty just destroyed it.
I mean, he was,
and like, not, I don't even think he like intentionally tried to destroy it. He was just like, I'm just gonna cruise around and do some easy tricks, and they were all like gnarly.
Is he skating much now? I don't even know where he is.
No, I've not spoken to him for a couple of years, but he lives in Sweden.
Okay.
I always see him pop up on Vert Attack. That's like the annual time to see him, I think. But I've not seen him or spoken to him for a couple of years. So I'm not sure what he's up to, but it's a nice surprise when you just see a clip from him now and again, isn't it?
Yeah, he's always been unreal. So you're on Def, independent, Potato Wheels. What about shoes and stuff like that?
So at that point, I didn't get a shoe sponsor, but go on.
Duff's, Munson.
Yeah, so that was the first shoe sponsor, but before that, I started skating for Carhartt.
Right.
And that was because Manchester had like it had quite a good Carhartt presence. There was a store there that opened, and there was a couple of my friends. So there was a hip hop group called Broken English, which was DRS Strategy and Connie Con. DRS is the guy who I work with a lot now. We do a lot of music together, but they were in a hip hop group together, and they were all sponsored by Carhartt, and they were really good friends with like the older kind of generation, like Joe Gavin and the guys from Note. And I was quite a bit younger than them, but I soon sort of like got friendly with them. And then like, yeah, Carhartt was just that thing that like a lot of people wore, and it was like a cool kind of thing in the city. So I was really sort of, I'd buy it and I'd wear it, and then pretty quickly got in touch with the guy who run it and started getting packages from Carhartt.
Yeah.
So that happened, and then I think that was, so that happened, and then a year later, roughly, I went to Concrete Carnage, I think it was called, which was at Romford.
Yeah.
Which was a Duff's and maybe indie event. So I think I probably would have gone there because it was an independent thing, and I'd gone there, and I remember I was skating in a pair of the Americas, and I had some America stickers on my board, and I was just skating all day and did pretty well in the contest, if I remember. I can't remember if I, placed or whatever, but did quite a few tricks, shot some photos. And everyone just presumed that I skated for America. So, because I had some stickers on my board and I had the shoes or whatever. And then I think it might have been the day after, we like went for breakfast, and Munson mentioned something about America, and I was like, oh no, I don't get shoes from America. And then he was just straight like, right then, as he is, you're on
Munson
Duff's.
stepped up.
Yeah. So it was from that point then.
He was here last week. He popped in.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
oh yeah, I seen
him,
yeah.
It's amazing watching him skate around with his mouth smiling, because you just see the whiteness coming from his teeth. It's like, it's hard to look at. They're so fucking bright.
Monson's the best.
I love Munson.
So yeah, that was when I guess he would have had Carl, Ben together.
Adam
Howe, another legend.
Blackwell, maybe.
Was he on them?
Mm-hmm.
I think I just blanked that one out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God. I love Blackwell.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe he was just because he lived with Munson.
Yeah.
They lived together. When I first got on Duff's and I used to go to Munson's, Blackwell lived there. Mm-hmm. So I can't even remember going on an actual Duff's trip with Blackwell. Maybe Munson just didn't want to take him on the trips, but
maybe that.
Or maybe he was just given shoes.
Yeah. That was a good time though. Duff's at that time, like Munson absolutely destroyed it with that, didn't he? Like that crew.
Yeah.
Like, it was just really prominent. Every event, it was like Munson and the squad were there. He really knew how to handle a team and get everyone out there.
So that was the first time I ever left the UK on a skate trip was on a Duff's trip, and I was 16 at the time. I went to Amsterdam.
Nice.
And it was me, Ramers, Carl, Adam. Maybe, oh no, it was somebody else, I can't remember. And there was someone from Amsterdam as well that was on the team. I can picture his face, but I can't remember his name. But it was a really rad trip. My board got lost actually off the plane. So the first couple of days I didn't have a board. Then I managed to get some bits off everyone and build a board.
During your time on Def, who were your favourite teammates? Who were your worst teammates?
Have you got
any good stories of Def riders?
I always got along with Kate's really well, and we went on a lot of other trips together that weren't just death trips. Like we went on a couple of Carve Wicked things, a couple of monster things. So, and me and Kate's used to get on pretty well. But I feel like maybe at the beginning, Dan might not have liked me, maybe because I was a bit of a fucking nightmare. But or maybe not didn't like me, but I don't think he wanted to hang out. So and he was a lot older, so it was kind of like I remember hanging out with Benson a lot. I really got on with Benson. Moggins also, because he was kind of not far away from where I came from. I can't really think of people that I didn't like.
You got any good Richie Jackson stories?
I never really went on that many trips with Richie. The first time I met Richie was when I went to the States. So I went over and I was staying with Melcher
Yeah.
And we went out and skated with Richie a couple of times. So that was the first time I met Richie. And then I think we might have done a tour with one of the videos.
The Ordinary
UK
Madness tour.
Yeah. And I think he was on that tour.
That's when that Matt Pennington came over.
Yeah.
As well, I think.
Yeah.
He was gnarly.
He did some wild tricks, didn't he?
Yeah. In
some
that Ordinary
mad
Madness
stuff in that video. Yeah.
It's probably my favourite death video after the one that Toby did, obviously.
Thanks. I'm just thinking about like the Squadrophenia tour when we were on that, and Richie was over for that. I've got some stories, but they cannot be on this. Who was the biggest nightmare on death?
Rob.
It was probably me.
No, I don't remember
Timmy?
you being.
I was a nightmare. Timmy was a nightmare, but Timmy was later on, so I didn't.
Yeah.
Timmy wasn't on until later, but most of the death trips to me were a blur because I was always pissed out my head the whole time.
What about that video where you're smacking the bottles together in the van and then you bite it and you're bleeding from like
Yeah.
your mouth?
See, that was like normal occurrences on the
That's
death
pretty
trip.
gnarly.
Yeah. Or like the one that Zorlak reminded me of last time I saw him was drinking petrol straight out of the pump. And just stuff like that all the time. So
There's a sound bite for you. Well, actually pressing it and being like...
So, I mean, again, I can't really remember this because I was pissed most of the time, but it was, I think, just pulled up at a petrol station, side loading door opens, and I'm just out with the pump
Fucking
filling
hell,
the mouth
Rob.
up with petrol.
I don't remember you being that bad, but then I guess I kept my distance from you as well. I think because we had two vehicles, didn't we? You were in the van, I was in my car.
Yeah.
And my car was the mellow ride. So I remember Percy. Were you on the one where Percy was on with us, or was that? I don't know. We was on what?
Honestly,
but I remember
so
Percy
much of
coming
it's a
up
blur,
to me and
but
being like, after the first like drive, he was like, "I need to come in your car." It was just too much.
So I used to hang out with Percy quite a bit because obviously he lived in Manchester. He was running document, so like a lot of my early photos were all in document and Percy shot. But then when we went on the trips, I think I was probably a little bit different because when it was me and Percy just in Manny, it'd be like I'd be having a couple of cans and we'd just be going shooting a photo and then it'd be done. But on the trips, it was just like days on end of just drinking in a van, and then most of the spots we'd stop at, or not most of, but a lot of the spots I'd just be like, "Oh, this one isn't for me." So I'd just be getting more drunk. And then,
so actually, I kind of remember because on my old laptop, I must have had a little early digital camera because I took a lot of snaps, and there's quite a lot of you and Horsey and Ben together, and you all look like you're about 11 or something.
Yeah.
And there's all these like in between shots. There's one of you lying on the floor, and there's like a post with like colourful tape, and you're there like as if it's your dick like passed out at like 11 o'clock in the morning or something.
Yeah.
We'll dig those out and put it on because there's quite a lot of good ones in there. When Lucy Ramers came in a few years back, I showed her, it was the first time she'd seen a lot of the photos, but it's quite nice. There's a lot of early Ben there when he was on
that's good.
Consolidated and you know, all that sort of time.
I feel like it's during that time I wasn't really like, you know, nowadays you take photos of everything, and especially like being sober, I always want something to do. Like I have my camera, I'm always shooting, I'm always filming stuff. But during that time period, I didn't really shoot that many photos, and a lot of that time was spent with Ben. Yeah. So like I've got quite a few photos with Ben, but we hung out like quite a lot, and I don't really have any sort of documentation of all that time.
Well, hardly anyone had. Well, people had mobiles then, but it wasn't like picture phones or anything like that. It was just
everyone was blog camming, weren't they? Blog spots, and everything like that. That was like the pre-Instagram. Was the blog spots.
You got any good Munson stories?
You put me on the spot. I probably do have.
Just to reiterate, I fucking love Munson. He's the best.
Let me think. I want to think of one.
Come back to that one if you want.
Ones. Yeah, let me come back to it.
You rode for Monster Energy as well, right? Was that like paid?
Yeah.
How much did you
get?
Straight in there.
And did they send you loads to drink each month?
How did that work?
Not really, because I wasn't really interested in drinking it. So the only ones that I did used to drink is they did a coffee a little bit later. So I rode for them for quite a while. And towards the tail end of it, they did a little canned coffee, which was quite nice. So that was the only one that I actually asked for. But
was that also through Def as well? Because they were kind of
no, that was after that.
Yeah,
it came about. How did it come about initially? I think I just like, I was always pretty kind of like proactive with sponsors and stuff like that when I was younger, and just figuring out any way that I could just skate and not have to go to work, basically. Like, how can I get money? What can I do? I was always pretty like, right, these. So I remember like, I can't remember exactly how it happened, but I remember seeing a few things happening in Manchester where there'd be like a monster van handing out cans.
Yeah.
They might sponsor a little skate event at the pump cage, or like they started doing stuff, and I just thought, right, there's a, you know, there's something going on here. They're interested in skateboarding. So I think I might have even just sent an email to just a random email address. But then pretty soon after, met James Voot, who was the team manager, and his missus at the time, Charlie, was quite high up at Monster. And there was another guy called Adam who worked there. And there was a few guys who I kind of like met pretty early. And I think I'd just shouted him and been like, yo, like, are you sponsoring people, whatever? And they just sent me a package of stuff. And then I can't really remember what happened in that like early stage, but it was like I'd get sent some stuff. I might have had a photo with a sticker on my board or something like that. And it kind of like started to develop a bit more where they'd pay for, you know, they might pay for a trip or a flight or something like that.
Yeah.
I'd say, I want to go to this contest. They'd pay for a flight. So it kind of started off like that. And then the whole program started to develop more. They didn't have a European team at this time, but then they did have a European team, and then I was put on the European team. And for a while, like, there was a few of us that did really well out of it. Like, yeah, I think like the kind of like, I always remember the sort of the highest point of that was during Downtown Showdown Amsterdam, which I can't remember what year it was, but that was at the height when I think I was getting £1,000 a month as a flat thing. Yeah. But then the incentives were crazy. So if I won money in a contest, they'd match the money. Yeah.
Nice.
If I had a photo in a magazine, it'd be like 500 quid. Double page would be £1,000. Front cover was like £5,000.
And you were getting a lot of coverage around that time as well.
Yeah, I never had a cover, but it was every month I'd have at least one photo in a magazine. So it was like, it was tallying up. And I remember at that Downtown Showdown, they'd paid for me to go there anyway. And I think they must have paid for Death to have gone there, because that's at the point then when Death was all sponsored by Monster. So they'd paid for me to go there, paid for everything while I was there. I didn't spend any money when I was there. I can't remember how much money I won in the contest, but I came first on the antis obstacle, second on the flip obstacle. I think second place might have been £1,000, and the first place might have been like £2,500. So they matched that. And then I also DJ'd at the after party and got paid £1,000. So it was like, I ended up leaving Amsterdam with like just under 10 grand.
Fucking hell.
So like, rad.
That was at the point when it was, you know, obviously there was a lot of hate around like Monster and all that stuff. And I was kind of like, look, I don't want to stick that on my board. I hate it. It's disgusting, but they pay me loads of money.
Yeah, like, which allows you to go and do those trips.
And I can skate for a living.
And have a lifestyle where you don't have to be worried about working.
Exactly.
This is what people, it fucking winds me up.
It really winds me up.
People, I can't do that. Fuck off. Just take the money.
And I get it. It's like, you know, I don't want to put any of this stuff on my board. I don't care about that. I don't drink the energy drinks. Like, I'm not trying to sell the drinks. I'm just using this to just
taking their money.
Yeah, and I can just go and skate and live my life. Do you know what I mean? And have fun. It's like, why am I not going to do that?
Yeah.
Put a sticker on your board when you're shooting the photo or doing the line.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know,
that's it. We used to have these like little. It's like a sticky
little
patch
patches
that you put on your hat that looks like it's part of the hat, and it's literally like, we'd be at a contest and it'd be like, right, get it out of your pocket, stick it on, do your run, rip it off.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what we were doing, and it's like just to tick the box to say I've done what I should do for today, and now I'm done with it.
But there's plenty of people like who would be considered, you know, super cool gatekeeper-esque skaters who ride for Monster. You know, I mean, is Charlie Munro on Monster?
I don't know now. I'm not sure.
You know, there's been plenty of them. It's not like it's, I don't know. It's almost like they seem embarrassed about it.
Well, I think as well, like when it kind of like went European, they got quite a few skaters that kind of like Nassim was on there, for example. Nassim Gomez, Phil was on there. I was on there. Beckett, Rune was on there.
Might still be on there. Right?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think he is.
But there was quite like iShod.
Yeah.
Like there's like cool skaters that were on there that kind of started to break that barrier down a little bit. So when the European thing started, it felt a little bit more like, okay, iShod's riding for.
Yeah, if
it's
iShod
cool.
is.
Do you know what I mean?
iShod
no,
too.
it's not. I didn't mean it's cool. I mean it's fine to put a monster sticker on. Do you know what I mean?
There's quite a lot of that stuff that at first everyone turns their nose up at, which, you know, I get that. But
when I met them all in Copenhagen, they all have monster cans like this, and they unscrew, you know, to put water in.
Yeah.
And then and it just looks
to
as
reveal secrets like that. But
yeah, big industry reveals. I should not have revealed that secret.
What it boils down to, which people need to understand, is that, like you said, you know, like you got that money, and that allowed you to not have to be stressed out about having to hold down a regular job.
Yeah.
Because you were like coining it in from that. And, you know, I mean, there's been other instances over the years where people talk shit on somebody for taking whatever sponsorship deal. But that allows them to do things, to go on trips, to go traveling, to skate more. If you're taking money from a corporate brand, which allows you to then skate more, what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
I just think people need to just fucking chill out.
It's one of those, isn't it, where it's like, you know, there's always been that blurred line with skating between, like, is it art or sport? And it's like, that's that boundary of, like, when you start doing that, it's more being treated like a sport. And you've got your purists who are kind of like, no, it's an art. So, like, when they start seeing these big corporations coming in, and you know what, like, obviously, these big corporations, they're only doing it for themselves. They're only doing it to better their brand, to make, you know, that's the reason why they're involved in it. And they don't bat an eyelid about dropping somebody off the team. They don't really care about how it's going to affect that skater or whatever. So, you know, you've got to always kind of think about it like that, like this isn't going to be forever. Yeah. But I get why some people might be like, nah, fuck them. Like, don't fuck with those corporations. You know, you don't want to have to do that. But if you're getting money like that, it's stupid.
If you're getting 10 grand and a trip to Amsterdam. Hold on a second. We should probably talk about who's sponsoring this episode of the Brain Drain Show. Toby, take it away.
Today's sponsor is Sabbath Wheels, straight out of Birmingham.
Sabbath Wheels are fast as fuck because of their new and improved wheel formula. Sabbath wheels come in a diverse range of shapes, sizes and colours, so there's something for everyone.
Who are the riders for Sabbath Wheels, Forde?
The current pros are James Bush and Craig Questions, with the guest pro wheel, Mr. Vaughan Baker, and there's even a guest American pro wheel coming soon, but we're not going to tell you about that.
Andy Roy.
There we go. Aside from Sabbath Wheels sponsoring a lot of local riders, they also give back to the UK skateboarding scene by hosting a wide range of free events, including the yearly and incredible Black Mass. Let's give a massive shout out to some of the Sabbath riders. They are Frere Brooks, Mia Roberts, Alex Ramsell, Gully Mandem, Marcus Palmer, Chris Vile, Dean Greensmith.
I think you've said them all there.
I think I've said them all there. It's an incredible team. It's burnt into my mind. Toby, where can people find out more information about Sabbath Wheels?
www.sabbathwheels.co.uk / also at Sabbath Wheels on Insta.
And make sure you head to Rollersnakes. Check out Sabbath Wheels for all of their, wheels, bearings, and clothing. Right. Let's get back to the show.
Thank God for that. How did it all come to an end with Monster?
It was probably at the point when I was just not going away as much as I used to anymore. Yeah. And I think they started to... So James left from being team manager, and James was like a good friend and good friends with Phil and Nassim, and like when James was in that position, it was just like we were all mates, and we were just, obviously James was in control of the budget, and he'd just go, if you want to go on a trip, just tell me, we'll pay for it. And it was just dead easy to do. But then when James left, there's another guy called Adam who took over, who was kind of like, I don't know what he did before he did the team manager, but he was in the company but a bit lower down somewhere, and then he took over, and he was a BMXer, and stuff started to just become not that fun anymore, and it was just a bit different, and then budget cuts and just stuff like that, where it just started to become like not really worth it. The money started to go down, and then it was at a point where it's like, it's not worth having to put this sticker on the board anymore, or to be like representing this brand. When I think it got to a point I remember now, it got to a point where they'd said, we're not going to pay you anymore, but we still want you on the team, and we're going to give you, and it's just like, no.
We're going to give you a crate of energy drink a month.
It's just like, you've gone from, you know, giving me all that every month to now, here's some drinks. It's like, why am I going to do that? So I think at that point, and it happened with a few people, I think, and I think pretty much the whole UK team then disappeared at that point, and it just was just the European riders.
Yeah.
So I think at that point, a lot of people got, just sort of fizzled off it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You were on Supra for a bit, weren't you?
Yeah.
Quite a while, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, quite a few years. I can't remember how many years or.
Because that was quite a big one as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Supra back in the day.
Yeah.
Was that a paid thing as well?
No, that wasn't a paid. I did get paid a bit into it, but I never got paid from any of my shoe sponsors in the past. So I skated for Duff's, and then after Duff's, I rode for iPath.
Oh, I love iPath.
iPath was done through Harry and Tez, so they had a distribution called 2 Distribution, which was kind of part of Black Sheep. Before Black Sheep was Black Sheep, it was called 2. So they had a skate shop called 2, and then the distribution. And they used to distribute Jar, and then later they started Super Dead, and they did iPath. So I was getting iPath through them, and it was just, I can't remember what happened to Duff's, but I think it just got to the point where it had gone, or it got taken over by the US.
They pulled out of the UK market and just manufactured direct for TK Maxx.
Yeah.
And that was that.
So that had stopped, and then Harry and Tez were already distributing iPath, so it was just an easy, their shoes. So I was doing that for a little bit, and then I remember me and Tyman had been out somewhere skating on the Friday or something, and the Super were on a tour, and they were coming through Manchester on the Saturday, and obviously I was skating iPaths, but it was never my thing really. It was just some of the shoes are all right, and the shoes here, but it was never I was never really into it. I'd never really would have bought iPaths. And I remember Super were coming through doing this demo at the pump cage in Manchester, and I remember saying to Ollie, by this time tomorrow I'm going to be sponsored by Super, and we were just sort of laughing about it. And then the day after, I went and skated the demo and just went ape shit in the demo.
Is that why you do the 50 up?
Yeah.
Pull down to fake in the death video.
Yeah.
With Chad Musker at the start, where he's like PUMS.
Yeah. So that was kind of that was the introduction to that. It was, I just kind of did a lot of stuff at the demo, and then we all hung out afterwards. Everyone went to the pubs. That's where I met Musker and Lizard King, and I can't remember. I don't think Horsey was there.
Because Horsey had a shoe on Super, didn't
but
he?
I can't remember at that point what Horsey was doing, whether he was just not on that trip or whether he wasn't on Super at that point.
States, wasn't he?
Maybe.
He was out there for quite a while.
With the Send Help stuff. Was that
I think it was before that. But so that kind of was that all happened, and it was early days of, I think, so Vaughan Baker and Ben Bodilly were...
Ben Bodilly?
Yeah. So Ben was sort of distributing Super, I think, or he was the manager of the distribution, that distributed Super, and Vaughan was just taken on as team manager. So I think at that point of that demo, or that tour, that was the first time when Vaughan had been appointed the sort of team manager's job. And I don't think there was any UK riders other than Horsey, but I think Horsey was on a direct deal from the States. So I don't think at that point they'd sponsored anybody from the UK. And I could be wrong, but I felt like maybe there was some reluctancy about sponsoring me. So it wasn't a straight up right, you're on. But I feel like I kind of got on with everybody, and I wanted to ride for Supra. I really liked what they were doing at the time. I liked the team, I liked the shoes, and it made sense. And I think there was just conversations, and it slowly sort of started from that point. And then again, the same way that I treated that first death board that I got sent, it was just
keep going.
I'm getting given a pair of shoes. I'm going to go and shoot photos. I'm going to do this. And then it just became a point where it's well, we've got to give Rob shoes, sort of thing. Just bullied my way on there, basically.
Yeah. Best way to do it.
Yeah, Super was big, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really cool. I liked what they were doing. It was kind of it was just different than what anybody else was doing in skating.
Yeah.
And they were really sort of fashion conscious in a way, and I've kind of always been really into brands and clothes and that kind of stuff. So like when Supra started, it was kind of like, it was on the edge of skateboarding, wasn't it? Where it was like, it was skate stuff, but it also crossed over and it was cool. And you had like, you know, Kanye West was wearing it and like Beyonce was wearing it and like these celebrities was wearing Supra, which was kind of weird, wasn't it? So it was just, I don't know, it kind of felt a bit more like there was something a bit more special about it going on.
What was the transition from Supra to Vans and then being down in London and working at the House of Vans? And cause you did work there, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
How did that all come
So basically, I was skating for Supra, and I think 2013, 14, that's when I stopped being sponsored by Monster. So that was like my main income that was coming in had stopped. Still getting paid from Carhartt, and I was getting a little bit of money from Supra, and I had a bit of a travel budget, and I knew that at this point it was like, right, I've either got to go and get a job, or I've got to try and pick up another sponsor that's gonna pay me enough to be able to carry on. So in 2014, I went to America. I went there for 3 months, and I just did all the went to the Berricks, filmed stuff there, went to Double Rock, filmed a part there, which was a shared part with Phil Svazin. Phil came out with me for a while. I think Phil was there for maybe like 3 weeks. Went out and filmed that part. Went to Transworld, filmed a clip in the Transworld Park. And then also Lucian was over in the States at that point, so I went and stayed with Lucian for a bit. And all the Palace lot came over, and I stayed with them for a week, I think. So I was kind of like out filming clips with them, and it was like I kind of just treated those 3 months as just like, I've just got to go apeshit, film as much stuff as I could, get as much coverage as I could. I was also getting caps off a company called Official as well, which were based in Sacramento. So I was going hanging out with them, and I went and DJ'd with Cardiel up there, and I was kind of just trying to be as proactive as possible and just do as much as I could and just try and sort of like salvage my career basically. So I'd filmed all that stuff, and then the 3 months sort of came to an end because I could only stay there for 3 months or whatever. So then I came back home, and then nothing had really happened like sponsor wise. Nobody had really like approached me. But then I started doing some work for Wheelscape, which is a concrete park company that build concrete parks. And obviously from being a plasterer and working with concrete back after I'd left school, I started working with them building concrete parks. So we did a couple of parks, and then we got the contract to build the skate park at House of Vans. So I went to House of Vans, was building the skate park, and then the whole sort of, infrastructure and everything at House of Vans was being built. And Kat that was there, so Kat runs a company called Black Sparrow. Mm-hmm. Black Sparrow is basically an events agency that did all the events for Vans, European and some world stuff. So she was in charge of House of Vans, and we'd known each other for years anyway, because a lot of the Vans events and stuff, we'd met each other over the years at the Vans events. And Kat just approached me and she said, we've got a skate park manager's job going at House of Vans. I'd really like you to apply for it. So I then applied for that job. I got the job as skate park manager. Obviously, I was still building the skate park. So the skate park got finished. And then it was like, I think I got taken on the month before we opened. But there was so much work to do. It was just insane. There was so much to do. And there was kind of like, this might not be exactly accurate, but it was very like, from how I understood it, it was like Kat had pitched this project to Vans. And, Vans already sort of had an idea that they wanted to do some sort of House of Vans thing. And then it was just like, oh, we found a building, here it is, right, bang. And it was just like, right, you're doing it really quick.
Yeah.
So then I feel like the month leading up to opening, it was like there was a plan, but it was very last minute, and it was just like, let's just get all hands on board sort of thing. So it was all, I think the first week that I did 127 hours in the first week that I was there, painting floors, just doing anything to sort of get open. But I've kind of veered off, but at that point was kind of like, if you're going to accept this job, you can't skate for another shoe company.
Right.
But we're going to sort it out so you get on the European team for Vans, and
nice.
That was kind of like, it was kind of like a thing on the side of the job, which worked out really well. Because it was funny, because at first, I guess a reason why I was saying this was because when I was taken on as the skate park manager, it wasn't sure whether it was going to be a full-time job or what it was, but there was this other thing, like, you can also skate for the European team, you're going to get paid monthly, and you're going to get shoes. So it added up to be like, all right, this is actually really good.
Yeah.
So obviously at that point, then I quit Supra, and obviously Vaughan and that understood, because it was a job and I wasn't getting paid enough from them to carry on skating for them. So that happened. But then from the day of us opening House of Vans, it was like, whoa, this is actually like a mammoth task to run this venue. So pretty much from the day we opened, I was just managing the venue on the floor downstairs, because there was Kat, and at the time her partner Henry. Kat sort of run the event side of things, and Henry run the sort of operations side of things. But the workload was so much, Henry was just in the office constantly. So I was the only sort of manager on the floor. So I was managing the reception staff, liaising with the bars and the restaurant, and also managing the skate park and looking after that. So I was doing everything, and we needed more staff. So I ended up taking on a friend at the time who was sort of like under me as the assistant manager, and he ended up basically being the skate park manager, and I was sort of managing the venue, and that was sort of the start of it. But obviously I was there for 9 years in the end.
Yeah.
And my job changed quite a few times.
Yeah.
I went from skate park manager to venue manager to operations manager after Henry left. And then I ended up cutting back my hours after a while and just being an event manager, because I was at the same time as being an operations manager, I was also organising the skate events too. Then it turned into handing over my responsibility of operations manager to somebody else, and then I just looked after events, music, and skateboarding.
Mm-hmm.
And
is that how you sort of moved into doing more music stuff as well? Was that?
Well, I've always done music since before I skated. So I was in bands from young. My dad was in bands. I was on a drum kit before I could walk, and I was kind of always doing music at the same time as skating. So the whole time I was ever on skate trips, I always had my laptop and headphones with me. I was always like making beats and stuff on the road, and it was just something that I did as a hobby. And then I also used to DJ at a lot of the skate events. So then obviously, when House of Vans opened, I was DJing at some of these skate events. I was also booking other DJs that I knew and music acts, and I was sort of ended up surrounding myself with way more sort of music people there. And then obviously being in London, I was going out clubbing quite a lot, meeting a lot of people in the music industry, and I was doing all that at the same time as just still doing music as a hobby and just doing it for fun, until it became a point when it actually started to kind of like work out and kick off like music. It was kind of a pretty smooth transition really, where skateboarding, because I was more involved at House of Vans, I just naturally skated less because I was there more, you know, a lot. And then when I wasn't there, I didn't really want to skate because I was just surrounded by skating all the time.
Yeah, it's a fine line, isn't there? Like when you're involved in skating and doing that. And
it was kind of like, I loved being there, but it really did jade me quite a lot being there, of like being around, like it was insane. Like we had a decent budget. We'd put on events every week where it's like kids could come, they get in the skate park for free, they get given free food, free booze, and they can win money if they do tricks. So literally like week in, week out, we'd just be giving away everything, money constantly. And kids would just come in and they'd be so ungrateful.
Yep.
It's just like, they'd come in and they'd be like, what time are you giving out free chicken? Where's the drinks tokens? And like after a while, it's just like, mate, just go and skate and have fun. Yeah. I'll give you some free food and some free money in a bit. Just like, and it was just that constantly.
Yeah.
It was just like, You know what I mean? It's like
that's skateboarding.
Yeah.
That's what it's turned into now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just 2 tricks that stood out to me always that you did. So firstly, you did the backside 3 grab on the mega ramp.
But it wasn't called the mega ramp. Who was
It was
talking
called
about
the Goliath.
The Goliath ramp. And another one.
Just mentioned that recently. Churchill mentioned it, didn't
And
he?
then the other one was the drop-in that you did in Leicester.
Oh, yeah.
Huge drop-in. A couple of months before, our mate Josh had tried it and broke both his ankles.
Yeah.
Both
one's
of
that?
them.
What drop-in's this?
It's
one at the
outside
uni.
the O2.
It's the uni, innit? Yeah, the
Yeah.
O2, yeah.
It's massive. They put
I
a pole right
actually
at the
played
bottom.
a gig there recently and went back to it.
They put a pole
Would
at
you
the
do it
bottom
again
of it
now?
I looked at it at that point and I was like, doing that now.
Because it's
Well,
got
I
a bit
could
of
do it
wood
if I wanted
at
to
the
do it.
top as well, hasn't it? So I always thought, like, I wonder if someone could drop in the wood bit and go, because it's like
Yeah,
the
it's
drop
got-
and then there's like
It's got so say this is the top of the bank, it's then got a piece of glass and then it's got a wooden top on it. So
Yeah.
you could potentially tail drop into it.
Yeah.
But the bank is at an angle.
Yeah.
The bank's slightly angled, so so it's like that as well, isn't it? It's like a V on top and
Yeah.
it's slightly angled to the right. So, because I think when your mate drops in on it, you see him sort of like
He's trying to
lift it-
tic-tac
he
it
tries
back
to
into
tic-tac it
place.
back into place because
Runs off and both his ankles crumble.
Oh, God's sake.
He's never skated after that.
I'm not surprised.
He's never skated after that.
No.
Like
was
he's rolled around, but after
never
that,
put-
he was just like,
Fucking
that's
hell.
me done.
Mad.
Last time I seen him, he said he's had like PTSD dreams about
About that.
the sheer pain and the
Mad.
it's insane. But they're the 2 tricks that stand out to me the most.
What was the other one? Oh, the
360.
Goliath.
The 360
Yeah.
on the Goliath, because you'd not skated any ramp of that size surely before, and that was like
How big was that, the gap?
I couldn't tell you dimensions, but I helped build it as well.
was it easy to do it? You know, because the momentum of the ramp is sending you that way. Like
It's one of them where it's all about it's your mind. That one, it's easy.
Oh, there's Scotty on it.
Oh, this is the back 360 kickflip melon, mental.
Piss take. It's easy. isn't it?
So I helped build that with Pete King and the rest of the team, and there was, I just remember there was can't remember his name. I'm terrible with names, but he was known as Virchav, blonde hair. You remember him?
No.
Virchav. Nick, or not Nick. That was another kid. Anyway, he helped build it with us as well.
yeah,
And the whole, took us 2 days to build it. So a scaffolding company came and put a load of scaffolding down first, and then we built the vert quarter, which was one half of Pete's vert ramp.
yeah,
And then we built a rolling, which was just basically a load of 8x4 sheets of skate light just going down a piece of scaffold that had already been built. And then we just built a launch ramp and then the same on the other side, flat. But the whole time, Virchav, whatever his name was, can't remember, was going on and on and on about him. Oh, I can't wait. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be the first person to do it. Blah, 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 going on about it the whole time. So I had to make sure that I did it before him. So that's what I did. When as soon as it was built, he actually, before we'd finished building it, he went back to his tent to go and get his board and get his pads and get his trainers.
And you just got straight
And in the
there.
meantime, I just did it, and I did it in wellies.
Fucking yes.
you
Is there footage of
Just
that?
an air over it.
Is
indie
there
grabbing
footage of
wellies.
this? You in Wellies? There's got to be. Come
Maybe.
on.
I've not got it.
I guess people didn't really have good phones around.
And
then,
it was
did they?
quick as well, because it was like, I'm just going to get up there and do it quick. So I didn't even tell anyone I was going to do it. I just got up there, went over it, and then did it.
What'd you do? Just backside grab over it?
Just an indie grab straight
Oh,
over.
And then how long did the back 3 take, and what was the process behind that?
So I did the air over it when we just built it, and then I don't think I did anything else over it until the actual contest.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of go-to tricks, and one of them is a self lip, as you probably know.
Yeah.
And I did that over it first because I was just like, that's the next trick that I can think of. I'm going in a straight line. I can do self lips. That's the next easiest one to do. So after I'd just done an air, I did an air over it first in the contest run. I can't remember if I did a trick on the quarter pipe. I might have done a heel block on it maybe. And then I was like, right, self flip. That took a few goes. Did that. And then I was also in the same contest was Scotty and Jake Anderson. And obviously they're both vert skaters as well. So I was like, I need to do something else to have a chance. And then I just thought I'm going to try 360. And the only other time when I've done backside 360 indies was over the spine at Bolton. And I used to do them to flat over the spine. So I used to go fast and do a 360 indie and land on the flat bottom. But the last time I tried it, I broke both of my wrists.
At the same time?
And both in cast at the same time, yeah. So that was the last time that I'd done one, but I knew how it worked, and it made more sense for me because I used to do them to flat over the spine.
Yeah.
It was the same thing, really. I'm launching off out of it. So I just tried it a few times, and then the one that I landed, I kind of didn't really even realise I was landing. It was just all of a sudden I was rolling away. I remember winding the windows down like on the rollout, and it was literally the last seconds of the contest as well. So it was like this go or it's not happening. I think I came second. Maybe.
Just to go back to you broke both your wrists.
Yeah.
What was that? You just both
just
hands
landed
down
on the floor like that. Yeah.
Fuck.
And I did it, and I was in pain. And then my mum came and picked me up from the skate park, and I remember going to school the day after, and just being in pain the day after in school, and I was like, my arms are really hurting, and the teacher was being like, you need to get on with some work, and I was like, I literally can't hold my pen, and they were just like, shut up, just get on with it. And then that night I got home and it was still in pain, and I was like, I need to go to the hospital. I went to the hospital, and then I went to school the day after with 2 bright pink casts. And then I got a laptop, so I was like, this for like a month on a laptop.
And you went in to the teachers and you went,
yeah, told you.
Fucking told you.
Yeah.
That's a good story as
well.
well.
So yeah, that was the 360 at NAS. I think I came second. I think Andy won.
Yeah.
I think I came second, then Jake came third.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think I might have come third and Jake came second. That would make more sense, but maybe not. I don't know. Yeah. And the other one, the Leicester drop-in.
The drop-in. That was on a little death tour, right?
Yeah, so we were on a trip, I think, filming for
Ordinary Madness.
And again, this was another one where we'd just been driving around. I'd been drinking in the van. We just got out at a spot. It was that spot. I was a little bit behind everybody else. We walked. I don't really know the area, but I remember walking through a park. There might have been other spots.
Yeah,
in the
Victoria
right?
Park, where the skate park used to be, or still is now. Yeah.
So we was walking, but most of the people were like ahead of us, and I was kind of walking behind. And when we got to that spot, Moggins was midway up, and he was just dropping in from midway. And I just ran straight up to the top, just put my board on and just dropped in without even thinking about it. I didn't tell anybody I was going to do it. I didn't think about doing it. And then afterwards, I saw the drop. I didn't really notice that drop at the side of you. I think if I would have done, I would have thought about it a bit more.
So you didn't know about the history of that drop-in?
I don't think so,
You just ran there. So I think Mikey Patrick half-cabbed down the stairs, just slightly up the street.
Yeah, that rings a bell, yeah.
Yeah, he did that.
Again, it was like beers deep in a van. Can't really remember. I just remember going there and not just getting up and just doing it and not thinking or saying much about it. And then afterwards, I kind of looked at it and was like, if I would have actually sat there and looked at it, I might have thought twice about trying it.
Yeah, it's the drops.
Because the drop at one side, which you don't really notice. When you stood up at the top, the where you've got the landing, next to the side of it, it almost banks off. So at the point you're stood, the drop is like way bigger than the actual height of from the rollout to the top.
Yeah, because as the rollout
if you fell off the drop, you'd be
as the rollout goes down, the pavement on the side bit that you're looking, the drop goes into a car park.
Yeah,
it also slopes down, so it's like that.
Yeah.
But it's insane that there's not even still to this day, there's not even a railing on the side of it, so anyone could run up it,
just fall off
and
the
fall
side
off
of it. Yeah.
It's the biggest security hazard.
I went back there recently. I played a show at that venue. Oh, it's the uni. What's it called?
Student
Academy
Union 02 or something like that.
And I played there and parked right next to it, but I didn't even realise that's where we were going. I was like, oh shit, there's that spot.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's big.
It's massive. It's gnarly.
That's you just mentioned it and reminded me, but the Herworth.
Oh yeah.
Was it Nose Blunt yanking?
Yeah.
Oh my god,
that
that's insane.
Brilliant. With the local guy.
The fella goes, I'm gonna have to call an ambulance when you get get
if it wasn't
phone
if
there.
it wasn't for him, I don't think I would have tried it the first time.
That is gnarly. That's high.
Yeah.
And there's a gap.
Is it still there? Never been done.
There. I mean, they've redeveloped it.
I've had the conversation with myself so many times that I want to go back and do it, and I just don't think now at this point in my life it's possible.
It's a big drop, Rob. I mean,
if I would have gone back, the reason why I think that I didn't do it was because it was at the end of a week. We'd been to Scotland for a week, and it was on the way home, and it was like, come on, let's go by there. And I was already rinsed from a week skate trip, and I got there, and I was looking at it, and I just couldn't get my mind like clear to just try it. And I was up there, and I was just like, this is too big. I just don't think I can do it.
Can you just get that on the screen, Frazer? Herworth Bank, Rob Smith, drop in, public person going ape shit.
It's just that guy when he's like, I best get called in an ambulance.
On YouTube and just type in Rob Smith Herworth Banks, I think it'll come up.
Something that you've mentioned a few times when we've been talking about this is how drunk you were. You've been sober now 4 years, you were saying earlier. Yeah. What, run us through that, like, what's the story there of your reasons to go sober, and how
what impacted that?
Yeah, you know, like, let's talk about it. So, if you want to.
Yeah, no, definitely. I like talking about it because I feel like, especially within skateboarding, there is a.
I think I've found it.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, we'll come back to that in a minute.
Yeah.
I feel like, especially within skateboarding, there's a lot of people with alcohol problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of people disguise it. A lot of people just, you know, especially within skateboarding, a lot of people just people just ignore it and don't really talk about it. So I don't mind talking about it because I feel like if I can help other people, then it's good. You know what I mean? I think. But I drunk from being very young, and I drunk a lot all the time, and I learnt to skate whilst drinking. So it was like one of those things that was like a hand in hand kind of thing where if I was skating, I was drinking, and it was just that was just, you know, a given. And I've stopped drinking a couple of times throughout my life, and it's just been times when I just felt like it's getting in the way of certain things. I felt like I'm overdoing it. You know, I can't even think of specific incidents, but just knowing like you've been a dick, you've had a fight, you've kicked off with this person, you've fallen out with that person, you've, you know, got yourself in a stupid situation or whatever, and it just kind of happened too many times to me to be like, right, just at least try and cut down. But I could never just cut down. I either just got to be drinking or I'm not drinking. So there's been a few times when I've stopped. But the first time I remember stopping drinking, I'd stopped, and at the point I'd stopped, I couldn't skate. It was really weird, but like I felt like I couldn't skate without drinking, or not couldn't skate, but couldn't skate the way that I normally skate. So I feel like most of the stuff that I've done skating wise, it's something that's not very difficult to do, but it just takes a bit of balls to go, I'm going to try it. And then if you try it, I know I'm going to do it. So when you've had a couple of drinks and you lose your inhibitions and you kind of say, oh, fuck it, whatever. As an example with like dropping, I'd had a few cans. I don't really care. I'm just going to drop in on this thing. So then when I stopped drinking, it was kind of, it was really hard to be able to skate like I skated before. And that was at the time as well where I was at House of Hands a lot, and I just felt like I'd kind of fallen out of love with skating, and it was just a period where it was like, oh, I think I'm done. I don't think I can skate anymore. Like, I didn't really enjoy it anymore. I wasn't really watching it. And because I didn't drink, I just felt like I just couldn't do it anymore. But with not drinking, loads of other things became way better in my life. And I just realised this is what I need to do. I'm quite like a productive person, and I like doing a lot of different things. And when I'm drinking, I can't do all them things. I've not got enough time for them. You spend all your time either drunk or hungover and feeling like shit a lot of the time. So you just don't really have time for that stuff. So that was one thing. When I stopped drinking, I was like, oh, actually, I can go and make music. I can wake up and, you know, go out. I can still go and skate, even though I wasn't skating to the ability I used to be able to. I could still go and do all this stuff. I really like cooking, so I was like cooking loads and like just eating healthy and like just doing all this stuff that I wouldn't have done when I was drinking. So I'm like, this is the better choice. But I kind of learned, like, I never really realized why I was drinking. Like, it was just, like I said, it was something that I did as well as skating, but I realized that, like, I've got a really busy mind, like overactive mind. And when I drink, it numbs that and it stops the overactive thinking. And that was one thing why it helped with skating, because if I was stood on top of that wall and I was completely sober, I'd be like, you're going to break your leg. This is stupid. Why are you doing that? Or what if this happens? Or you'd just be thinking about all the worst shit. Whereas if you've just had a drink, you're just like, I'm going to fucking do this.
Yeah.
So like, there was pros and cons with not drinking. And I realized that the reason that I was doing it was to kind of just like forget and to just like sort of numb your mind. And, you know, I feel like skating for a lot of people is like an escapism as well. And like, you know, no matter what's going on in your life, if you go out and skate, you forget about everything else that's going on and you just focus on skating and you're hanging with your mates. And then as soon as that stops again, you're back into the world where, you know, you might have, you know, whatever people need these outlets, don't they, to do stuff to escape the normal life. And I feel like that's what I was doing with drinking, was I was just kind of like trying to forget shit, just trying to just clear my mind and drink. And obviously because I was doing that, it was an unhealthy amount, because I was always drinking to try and numb my mind, because I preferred to sort of be in that mind state. So yeah, it comes with pros and cons, but I think like the pros way outweigh the cons really. And I've just learned of like different ways to deal with stuff and to sort of what's the word, like kind of like play to my I don't know, my brain's kind of stopped working, but like basically the way that my mind works is like, right, okay, now you're thinking that, so I'll go and do that, or just, I don't know what I'm saying, lost my train of thought. But basically like my mind is always so like crazy, full of ideas and full of active, like doing stuff. Some days I can be like, I really want to do this thing, but my brain won't let me do it. So what will it let me do? It'll let me go and cook food. Cool, I'm gonna go and cook some food. So like that's kind of the way that I've learned to deal with it, is just like do what you can feel like you can do here and now.
What advice would you give somebody who is considering knocking booze on the head? How, like, what's the you know, a way to sort of dip your toe in there and get going with that?
I feel like it depends on like your reason. I think if you've got to a point where you have recognized you need to stop drinking or cut down, that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
I think it's like, it's hard to be honest with yourself and go, you're a dick when you drink, or, you know, you're not getting shit done, or you're fucking up friendships or relationships or whatever. So like, I think the like recognizing that you've got a problem or you need to stop is the hardest thing. So if you've got to that point, you've done that hard bit of like just coming to the self-realization of like, I need to just stop this. And it depends on what your relationship with it is. With me, I couldn't just have one or two drinks, because once you've had one or two drinks, then you're like, oh fuck it, I'm just going to carry on drinking. So I had to just be like, right, just don't drink. And after a while, like the first couple of weeks are difficult, because you kind of like, you're having withdrawals and you're going out of your normal routine of what you would normally be doing that week. So like, that's the difficult bit. And once you get past that, I got then addicted to like adding days of not drinking. So for me, I was like, right, yes, I've done a month. So now I'm going to do 2 months. And like that became my addiction.
Yeah.
So
the
like,
clock starts in your head when you're timing it.
Defo. And I think like maybe like it's good to make note of the things that you're doing that you wouldn't have been able to do if you was drunk or if you was drinking. Like, you know, going into work being hungover and that all that you can think about is having a drink at the end of your shift because you felt like shit all day. And it's like those kind of things. It's like once you've gone a day and you've gone in work and you've actually had, when you go for a while of not drinking and then you go into work and you just have a really productive day and you get all your stuff done dead quick and you're like, that would have literally taken me all day and now I've done it in 2 hours or whatever. So remember those things, write those things down, like make note of the things that you're, like it just gives you, it gives you so much more time. Like time is the thing that's like, I think one thing with me is as well, because music has like now been this thing that's like, oh right, you've got a chance to sort of have another career in something else, do something. I would not have had that time or been able to do it if I was drinking. So like, I just look at that and just go, cause you're not drinking, you can spend all that time in the studio or, you know, doing a gig or whatever. So like, just look at the things that you want to do in your life and just, you'll realize how much more time you have to do those things. So I think like, having other hobbies as well, like not just skating, because you can only skate so much, and sometimes it does your head in, or you might be injured or whatever. So I've always been lucky where I've been really interested in lots of different things. So I've always had other things to take my mind off drinking. So I think that's something, is like, have your hobbies like lined up, have these things that you want to do, like and try and just focus on and realize how much more time you have to like do these things. And as well, like, hang out with some drunk people when you're sober, and after a while you're like, do I look like that? Is this how I act?
You can't stand being around it, can you?
I know. It's like, I've got used to it now, because like my job now is like being in clubs around people that are getting fucked, like getting wasted. It's like, that's a lot of people just go out to just get drunk, and like it can be really annoying. But I've got to a point now where I can kind of deal with it to a point, but most of the time now I'm in and out of those places. Like, I'll go to some of them for enjoyment if I know I can kind of like be out of the way and not be around those people. But after a while, it's like, it just does your head in. It's like, and it's just more that like people just repeating themselves and just telling, but like just talking shit. Bullshit, and it's just stories. Like, I've not got time for this. I'd rather be at home making something, doing something, going skating, even just making a meal, or like, I'd rather be doing that than listening to you talking absolute rubbish, repeating yourself over and over again. And it's just like, you realize, oh, hang on, that's what I do. Like, I look back at the whole time when I was skating, how fucking annoying I must have been to so many people. And it's like, because I see other people doing it now, and I'm like, I look at it and it makes me cringe. Do you know what I mean? I'm just like, oh, you're really embarrassing yourself. And then I just think, that was me 10 times 10. Do you know what I mean? So certain stuff like that, I think, obviously when you first stop drinking, it's hard to go and be in a crowd of people that are drinking. And the other one is as well, like, there's a lot of people that are guilty of like pushing drinks on other people. Like, the amount of times when I'd first stopped drinking, people are like, just have one, just have a beer. And it's like, it's not just one, it's one for you now while I'm with you. But then when you're not here, it's me drinking all week without you here, for you to just have your like hour of enjoyment of me being drunk around you. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I feel like people push their insecurities on other people as well. It's like, that person who's going, go and have a pint, probably feels embarrassed about being drunk on his own while you're sober, or doesn't want you to be sober around him being drunk. So like, again, it's like, separate yourself. If you want to stop drinking, separate yourself from people that are like that. Do you know what I mean? If you know, even if it's your best friend, you both love drinking together, if you want to stop drinking, just don't hang out with him for a week. Get a week under your belt. Go and do some other stuff, and then you might feel stronger the next time you're around them and they try and give you a drink. Do you know what I mean? But I think really, like, other people need to help and need to realize, if someone wants to stop drinking, there's probably a reason that they've got that you're unaware of. And it's like, you know, obviously men as well struggle way more to have these conversations with each other to say, I've got a problem, or I feel like shit, or any of this stuff. Like, we find it harder to have these conversations with our friends. So if someone's going, I'm not drinking, maybe that means something a bit more. Maybe that means, I don't want to drink because I feel like shit, or, you know, to an extreme of, I don't want to be here anymore, or whatever it may be. You don't know what that person's going from. So if someone's telling you, I'm not drinking, just like, respect it. Do you know what I mean? And let them not drink. Encourage them if you can. Do you know what I mean? Or if you can't, don't be around that person while they're not drinking. If you can't, like, refrain from trying to push it on people.
So was there a pivotal point where you were like, I've had enough? Do you remember thinking, that's it, I need to...
Well, the last time, so I've been sober for 4 years now from booze, and the last time I had a drink was St. Patrick's Day, on the day the pubs were closing for lockdown.
Right.
And I went out and got shit-faced, and then I came back to my studio and I was drinking more at the studio, and I ended up doing an Instagram live, and I was just... like, people were on my Insta and I was just getting pissed, and I don't even really remember the Instagram live, but that was the last time I got drunk, and I just knew that this was lockdown. It's either going to go two ways. I'm either just going to get pissed every day, or I'm going to be really productive and use this time for, like, to do something, because the world's stopped. So you've got all this free time now. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to get drunk every day, which I would have done if I would have carried on drinking, or are you just going to stop? So that was the point when I was like, I'm just going to stop. And I've always been like, if I've got something in my mind and I know I want to do something, I'll do it. So I've never, like, I have gone to stuff like AA, and I've been to therapy loads in my life about different things, but if I've got something in my mind and I want to do something, I'm just like, I'm going to do it, and I'll do it. So at that point, I just knew I'd be fine. Obviously, you know, there's stuff that tempts you to want to do it, and I still think about it now all the time. It's like, if someone,
always temptations.
Yeah, and especially like the weather gets a bit better and people are sat there having a drink, and it's just like, oh, I'd love a cold pint. But then it's like, would you love a cold pint? Like, just drink another drink. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's just, you don't need all the other shit that comes with it, and then you realise it's not that deep anymore.
Yeah.
I get it in the summer when I'm biking back from work and you go past like a beer garden and you kind of have a thought for a minute like, oh, that's such a social thing, and I'm just going to go chill out and edit something. But then you're like, there's reasons why you stopped, because I'm like just over 4 years myself. Right. And I had I just noticed like a load of mates just like dropped off. Yeah. And then certain mates would be like, kind of tiptoe around you like you're afraid of drinking. They'd be like, oh, we're going to a bar, you all right with that? And it's like, I can still go out. Yeah. I just don't. But yeah, I've definitely had mates where they're like, oh, you're at a wedding, have one. Yeah. And it's like, no. It's not one. Because then I'll go home and just, I'll have a 4-pack. And then it's like.
It's one of them, innit? If you just had a drink today, then next week, if you're out for a meal, it wouldn't be a big deal to order a drink with your meal because you had one last week. It's like once you've gone past that point of like going, I'll have one, even if it was one on that day, you've kind of just broken that barrier of being like, oh, well, it was just one, I'll just have one now. And before you know,
then eventually later, you're
just back on where you was.
Yeah.
So, you know, I feel like I've grown up enough now and I'm wise enough to know that I probably could have a glass of wine now if I wanted to. But what do I want one glass of wine for?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? What am I really achieving from doing that other than just having something nice to taste with a meal? It's like, I'm having a nice tasty meal. Do I really need that wine? It's like, so when I think about it, I'm like, I don't actually want to do it. Do you know what I mean?
We spoke a little bit about music earlier on, but let's carry on with that before we wrap things up. But so, you know, you talked about how skating kind of, you fell out of love with skating and then music took over there. So tell us a bit more about that and like how, I mean, you've got, you know, you're doing gigs and you're about to go to America and all that kind of stuff. So just tell us
go
all
through
about
that. So like I said, it's something that I've always done in the background. I was in bands, so I used to actually be in a band with Eddie. So Eddie was the singer.
Oh, nice.
I was on drums.
What was the band called?
Thrust.
Of course it was.
And Joel Gavin drew our logo, and it was the Thrasher logo, but it said Thrust.
Yeah.
So Eddie was the lead singer, because Eddie just wanted to be in the band, but he couldn't play any instruments, so he was just like, I'll sing. So Eddie was the singer. Then we had Mike Matthews. I don't know if you remember Mike Matthews.
Not too sure.
He played guitar in the band. Then we had Kev Ely, who played bass in the band. And then we had Kendrick, you know Kendrick, and he played guitar as well. So it was an all skate like punk band. So we used to play gigs and stuff at skate events and house parties, and it was just, we were just like a mad punk band. So yeah, music's always sort of been there. And I think probably around maybe like 16, 17, I was listening to loads of like metal and stuff like that, like Slayer's my favourite band. I was also listening to like Thin Lizzy and like, you know, Metallica, like kind of more like heavier rock bands or metal bands. But then I got to a point where I was kind of like, that sort of, it was getting a bit boring for me where it wasn't really progressive.
Yeah.
And I kind of just found, I'd found like electronic music earlier a little bit, but sort of when I was like 17, I was going to like club events where there's like electronic music, and it was like a current thing where there was constantly new music, and it was like something to like keep up with, and it kind of like stimulated me a lot more than the old kind of rock and metal was that I was listening to. So at that point was when I started to like go, oh, I want to be part of this now and sort of try and make this music or DJ or whatever it may be. So at that point, I was still playing in the band, but I was kind of moving towards more like electronic music and production and DJing. So that was just something that I just always did as a hobby, like on the side. And a lot of my friends were all involved in music. So like I had mentioned earlier on, Broken English, which was DRS, Strategy and Connie Con.
They did your Deaf song.
So yeah, DRS vocaled the Deaf track. Yeah. Oh, the first track actually was Strategy.
Yeah.
And it was produced by Chimpo, who's another friend of mine. And then the second track, it was actually a Skrillex instrumental, and DRS put vocals over top of it. And again, that was like, at the time, it was just like, this tune is just what, it wasn't even necessarily something that I was listening to, but I was just like, this tune's wild.
Oh yeah, it goes with the part.
Let's get Del to like put new vocals on it. So yeah, it was like all my friends were already in that world and were already like established artists and were touring and doing loads of wicked stuff. So I was sort of like following what they was doing as I was friends with them. And I was also doing it as a hobby at the time when I was skating. And it just got to that point where it crossed over. Like I said, I was at House of Vans a lot. I was getting a bit jaded by skating. I was surrounded by it every day. I just kind of thought like, I'm not really into it like I used to be. Yeah. And I wasn't skating as much. So then when I did skate, it was harder to skate. Also, the thing that I mentioned before about not drinking, I found it really difficult to actually do anything gnarly because I was thinking about it too much. And I kind of just thought, you know what? I think I might be done with skating. And I was gutted about it, but I was just like, well, I'm enjoying doing this music and I've got a full-time job, so whatever. And then it just kind of, it got to a point where what happened is I was moving house in London. I was in East Dulwich and I was looking for somewhere new to move. And a friend of mine, Issa, who's a BMXer, he runs a BMX magazine called Endless Magazine, and he was doing some stuff with us at House of Vans, and he was looking for somewhere to move. So we was like, let's find somewhere together. We found this like 4-bedroom flat that was really sick and it had a perfect like space for a studio. So I was like, this is perfect, but we need 2 other people. So Issa found one friend called Billy, who was a BMXer, and then I ended up in a conversation with Chris Oliver on Instagram that day. I replied to one of his stories of him doing a trick or something. And he was like, oh, look who I'm with. And he was with Snads.
Oh, yeah.
So he was with Dave.
Snadden.
And they were like at his house because Chris makes beats as well. Chris has always made tunes. And that was something that me, Chris and Dave always had in common. We were like, we all made beats. So at skate events, we'd always hang out with each other. And nobody else really did in skating. It was just us. So we always hung out together. And Chris said, Dave's trying to move to London. So I was like, I've just viewed a flat and we need somebody else to move in. So Dave then came and met me. And then I was basically like, we've got this house and there's a space for a studio, blah, blah, blah. So next thing is we're all living together. Me and David always talked about making music together, but we'd never made anything before. We'd always just chatted about it. So the first thing I did when we got the new house, I set the studio up before I'd sorted my room out and got everything in there. Me and Dave started making tunes together. So we made one tune and we sent it to a couple of people. A couple of people were like playing it out. And then the second tune that we made, we sent it to a couple of people and it just blew up. It went like really big within our sort of world of what we were making. To the point where every big DJ that we've ever looked up to was playing it out. It was unreleased at the time. Yeah. And it was just like, whoa, shit, like something just happened from nothing sort of thing. And then loads of different record labels all approached us and wanted to sign this one song. And then eventually we chose the label that it was going to be on, which is a label called 1985, which is owned by a guy called Alex Perez, who was a good friend of mine at the time. And his label was sort of like popping off at the moment. It was still small, but it was like, it was making waves and it was like, this seems like a good thing to do. And Alex wanted us to release that track on a compilation of other stuff, but because we knew it, like it had legs, a lot of people were playing it, we was like, this needs to sort of like, it needs to be a single, it needs to be a bigger project. But we had no other tunes at that time. It was like, that was the one that was popping off. The other one was all right, but it wasn't the same. It wouldn't have fit with that. Yeah. So we just said to Alex, we'll make an EP. And then me and Dave then just for the next couple of weeks, just like kind of chipped away at it with the same vocalist that vocaled our original tune. And then we ended up with this EP. Yeah. which is called the Broken Home EP. So we basically had that EP, and then it came out, and it just really sort of like put our names on the map, sort of thing. It wasn't like it was something that had not been done before, but I felt like it came at a right time where like the type of music was much needed. And it's very like, I don't know if you've listened to the music, but it's very like, it's soulful. It's got a really catchy like vocal on it, and it's quite like a chilled like soft tune, but it was being played in all these like big raves where they play, you know, heavy music or like whatever. So it really kind of like spanned a real wide audience. So when the EP came out, it sold out straight away. Like all the other tracks that were on it all got loads of traction. Like that EP just really, like, a lot of people said like it was one of the best ever debut EPs in drum and bass, and like loads of really good feedback from it. So from that point, it was just like, right, this is where I need to focus my energy.
Yeah.
So at that point, then it was like House of Hands was slowly like, you know, I didn't know it at the time, but it was getting towards shutting down. And I knew its days were numbered as well, because it was only ever meant to be there for 3 years, and we ended up there 9 in the end.
Yeah.
So it was just one of those things that just kind of, it naturally just, I cut my days down at work. I handed over my full-time job, which was operations manager, and I went to just being part-time event manager. So I had like 3 days a week I was at House of Hands, and then the rest of the time I was just working on music. And then went to a point then when House of Hands shut, and I was like, this is just the time to sort of make the jump and just do music full time. And it's just this, it's the same as it was like when I was first skating and picking up sponsors, where it's like you're just self-employed. Some months can be really good, you've got loads of gigs, you've got money coming in. Other months can be difficult, you've not got many gigs or whatever. So it's just one of them. It's just like I'm kind of feel like I'm in the same position now with music as I was when I was like early sort of sponsored skating, getting paid. So it's like, it's funny how I've almost like got a second chance to do something again. And there's so many similarities as well with like underground music and skateboarding. Mm-hmm. It's that kind of like, it's an art, do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's still small, but it's big enough that you can like make a career out of it. And especially now as well, like the last couple of years since lockdown, since we reopened after lockdown, well, drum and bass, which is the genre of music that I primarily make, has just gone massive. It's like a lot of tunes in the charts and stuff now, and there's way more of a chance to sort of like make a career out of the music. So that's kind of where it's at now. And then obviously I'm just about to go to America. Did a tour in Australia and New Zealand twice last year. Went there twice. So it's just one of them. Just playing festivals and stuff this year. And
sounds like you're killing it.
Yeah, it's hard work. It's a constant like it just turns into your life. Do you know what I mean? And now, especially with like social media, it's like you've constantly got to be producing content or being seen to be doing something. It's like I spend every day being in the studio making music, but that's not good enough. It's like you've got to be showing people that you're in the studio making music. You've got to be releasing music often enough to keep people on the toes. You've got to be proactive. You've got to be doing all this stuff if you want to make a career, because if you don't, you just get forgotten.
People
it's
like watching your lifestyle behind it now, don't they? People like if you're bringing out an album, they want to see you working on it. So because now with social media, every story you watch, people want to feel like they're there, and that's why everyone likes tuning into Instagram live videos and stuff like that, because it gives this sense of inclusion that you're involved in it.
People want to be part of it from the beginning as well, so they can say, I was there at the beginning when nobody knew this guy and now he's doing this or whatever. It's quite difficult because I'm not really like, it's kind of funny, this is kind of going back to the drinking thing, but like when I was drinking and I was a skater, like that was my job. It was almost like a character, like this drunken, like this is me.
Your persona.
Yeah, but now I don't drink. I'm the exact opposite of that. Like, I've realised, like, I like to be in the studio on my own a lot of the time, and I don't really like, I don't even really like socialising that much. It's like, I just want to just be
taking a while
like,
to
I have
work it
so
out.
much fun just making music on my own or filming stuff or just doing this stuff. It's like, I'm happy just doing that. And I don't really like being in front of the camera that much, but you've kind of got to do it on socials. So it's like a real fine line that I find is a constant battle. Like some people love it. A lot of people that I follow on Insta that do what I do every day, they're in front of the camera. they're doing all this stuff, and it's just like, that is not me. Like, maybe if I was drunk, I'd be like, I was going on Instagram Live and just whatever, and I could do it more naturally, but that doesn't come natural to me. So like that whole content thing, it's like I overthink all of it. I film stuff, I'll watch it over, I'm like, oh no, like I don't even really want to do this, but I know there's certain stuff that if I do it, it's actually going to do me favors, and some stuff you kind of, it's just really hard to get that line right of like what's not too cringe and what's.
It's a fine line, isn't it? You've got to do what you feel comfortable with, but at the same time, you know, obligations and things like that. It's the same as it was with skating. So, where can people find out more about your music?
So I guess if you follow me on socials, so on Instagram it's just @Dogger.
Yeah.
And then same thing on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, whatever it is that you use, streaming services, just search Dogger. And you get to see all my music, and I'm putting regular stuff out. So like obviously this is going to come out delayed, but I had a release, like a single came out on Friday.
Yeah.
Got a couple of projects that I'm working on at the moment. Been doing a lot of production for other people as well. So like not just like I'm the sort of front man. It's like doing stuff for other people's projects and albums and stuff like that. So kind of just doing a bit of everything really.
Could you do a drum and bass version of our theme tune? That'd be rad.
I don't even know what your theme tune sounds like.
What?
We've got 10 listeners.
What? Rob,
but
you don't know our theme tune?
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
Sean, who's downstairs, actually texts me. He skates all the time. He did our theme
It's
tune.
pretty heavy, isn't it?
It's
pretty heavy, like conventional on the computer rock song.
But it'd be really funny if there was like
maybe I could make a little edit for this episode.
Just a one-off
theme tune.
Can you just play it? If you've got audio through that, he's just queuing it up. That's it. Rob confirms he will be doing a new theme tune. Right, should we wrap that up?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to talk about? Are you happy?
I don't know.
I think we covered a lot of stuff.
What did we say? A Munson Story.
I bet you've got so many, but
no, we went on
things
loads of trips.
Funny, interesting shit with Munson happened all the time, didn't it?
Yeah.
It was like it was more the way
just every word out of his mouth.
The way he was, and when he was here last week,
I've got a good
exactly the same. Go on, let's hear it.
Right. So it was on the trip that I was talking about when we went to Amsterdam. So it's the first time I left Europe, left the UK and went to Europe.
Yeah.
I was 17. We drove somewhere. I think we'd gone to Eindhoven maybe, or we'd gone to somewhere else in Holland to a skate park, and we was with Reese.
Reese the Peace.
Yeah. So I was with Reese, and Reese had no money the whole trip. Reese was skint.
Nothing's changed.
And so Munson was ripping him the whole time or whatever, and obviously he had to keep asking Munson for money for food and when are we going for dinner and blah blah blah. So anyway, we'd gone to this skate park, and on the way to the skate park, Reese was bursting for a piss, but Munson wouldn't stop. So Reese pissed into a bottle and left the bottle in the van. We'd gone skating, we'd skated this park, and then I think it was then we'd left the skate park, we got back in the van, we're driving back, and I can't even remember how it happened or how it come about, but it turned into Munson saying to Reese, I'll give you 100 quid if you drink that bottle of piss. And he's going, come on, Reese, drink the piss, Reese. And Reese really didn't want to do it. Oh, it was before we'd got in the van. This is it. It was outside the van.
I can imagine Munson saying
he stood outside the van.
Drink the piss.
And he's going like, he's drinking. He's going, like that. And Munson's going, fucking drink it. Well, that's Munson's words, anyway. Yeah, fucking drink it or whatever. And he's going, oh. And he went right to the last bit. And there's the last bit, and Reese is throwing up everywhere. What's wrong with you? Get it down here. Like that. He's just going to him. And he just going, I can't finish it. And he didn't finish the last little bit, and Munson refused to give him the money because he finished his piss.
You know, I bet he didn't go hungry though, did he? Someone would have given him some food or something.
Should I add one more thing? That I'm actually not jaded from skateboarding anymore, and I've fallen back in love with it again.
I've seen you been skating a bit.
And I'm really enjoying it.
Good.
Yeah. And I feel like it's because I've moved back to Manchester. I've got a new crew of friends that I like skating with. There's loads more stuff that I like skating up there. And because I've had a bit of time off, and I've started like, you know what, as well, this podcast has really helped. It has, because I watch a lot of other different podcasts, different subject stuff, and I've never really had a skating one that I really like. Like the Nine's just too American. It's like, it doesn't really interest me. So like having this, I've been listening to this and obviously hearing loads of stories, having Munson on, Kate's on, Nick on. They were all people that are like talking about stories and things where I was. Do you know what I mean? So like that has definitely got me hyped.
Nice,
and
that's good to hear.
I mentioned it to Rick as well because Rick's never watched it, and I said you should watch it. And now he's rinsed loads of them, and he's
Rick Fields, the big one from Wigan.
Yeah. So the podcast has helped, and I've been out skating and really enjoying it again. So
nice, that's good to hear.
Well, you heard it from Rob Smith. This podcast saves skateboarding.
This podcast saved Rob Smith skateboarding, and he's going back to Herworth, and he's going to fucking get that nose blunt yank in.
All right.
On that note, shall we wrap it up?
Yeah.
Round of applause to the audience, please. Thank you, Rob.
Cheers. Nice one.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Nice
one.
Right, let's go film a new video part then.